detect benign or malignant lesion. There are different tests. Now today in ultrasound we have a technique which is called elastography. With a simple ultrasound technique, when I do the ultrasound, this technique allows me to look at this mass, this tissue, this texture, and this quantifies into something which tells me whether this is benign or malignant, which is whether it's a growing or non-growing cancer. So ultrasound has moved from a simple B-mode color Doppler to this stage. I'm not going to, there are too many high-end modalities or specific things which have come into ultrasound today. I'm not going to discuss actually too much on that. But I'm sure that you people must be going through this off and on. But if you miss this, it may be a little difficult for you in future when you move, when you start reading those high-end modalities. So same way, we are talking of backscatter. So this occurs with a structure smaller than the transmitted wavelength. Reflected energy is very low, but contributes to the texture of the image. I'm sure all of you know what is attenuation. All these things, why I'm talking to you, when you go to a doctor in your real life experience, he will tell you, I'm seeing some kind of attenuation, I'm seeing some kind of, so you would know that where my equipment needs to be controlled. What are the parameters which are responsible for these things? Now, if you look at the ultrasound equipment, transducer would be one of the vital, one of the most components of the equipment, right? Transducer is something through which you transmit those ultrasound signals. You have some crystals, you have some matching layers within this, and they finally transmit the ultrasound signal into the human body. They come back, you have a beam former obviously with the ultrasound equipment, and finally your images are done on your screen. Most of you would have heard about the Doppler effect, because probably 7 or 8 years back it was typically a black and white ultrasound. Then Doppler came into the picture, which is typically a color Doppler. So when there is a frequency difference between the transmitted and received waves, there will be a Doppler effect, which is a Doppler shift. And all of you have read Doppler principle. We use the same principle in the ultrasound equipment for this Doppler principle as well. Now, we talk of pulse ultrasound. Most of the ultrasound systems are designed based on the principle of this technique, which means the transducer emits only a few cycles of pulse at a time. At one point of time, I transmit a cycle. When this encounters a tissue, it reflects back. So that's where we spoke about those scattering and other things or attenuation which happen. So this happens here. Now in Doppler itself, we have different functions. We have a pulse wave Doppler, right? And most predominantly we use pulse wave Doppler and continuous wave Doppler. Then the technique of HPRF comes in between. So let me tell you practically how pulse wave Doppler is used in an ultrasound. When you do an ultrasound, let us assume I'm doing abdominal ultrasound. This is my right kidney. This is a renal scan which I am trying to do. And once I use the Doppler, can I use let me put it this way, can I use a continuous wave Doppler on a renal scan? Anyone of you? Do you understand what's pulse wave and continuous wave? How many of you know that? No? Come on. You can tell? You. Yeah? Can you tell me what's pulse wave Doppler?
Pulse wave is something which is according to the protocols and laws and it's in some rhythm of signals. It's not a continuous thing, it's a discrete form of wave.
Let me try to explain to you, thank you. Thanks for your attempt. If you look at your blood flow in your body, is it homogeneous from head to toe? Do I have? Is it? Where is the maximum speed of blood flow? Heart. So I cannot have the same technique to quantify this blood flow here or here or here. I need to have some different technique which I use to visualize, which I use to quantify. What is Doppler? Doppler is quantifying, it's profiling. I am looking at the velocity profile. I am looking at the tissue profile. Now, can I use the same Doppler technique for a blood flow at 8 meters per second or 0 point something meters per second? No. That's why in case of a pulse wave Doppler, what I do, I use single crystal. It transmits and it sends back the information. I transmit, I receive. I transmit and I receive. The entire thing is done by one single crystal. But just imagine if the blood flow is very fast. Is it possible for me to transmit, then wait and receive? Is it possible? No. That's why in case of cardiology, when I do an echocardiography, right, where the blood flow is very, very fast, what do? I use continuous wave Doppler there. I use two crystals. I transmit, I receive. I transmit, I receive. I transmit, I receive. So I don't have to wait. Do you get something of it? So the organs, in case of a kidney where blood flow is not very high, I use pulse wave Doppler. In case of heart, for an echocardiography case, I would do pulse wave as well as continuous wave Doppler. But in case of a renal scan, I don't need a continuous wave Doppler. So this is from the education point of view. When you move tomorrow for a job, let me give you a typical example. When you go to when you ask for a job from an organization, the straight question somebody may ask you, can I use a sector probe? Can I use a convex probe? You understand what is a convex probe? All of you know what is a convex probe? So that person may ask you, can you use a convex probe with continuous wave Doppler? Can I do that? Yes or no? Anyone? No answers? Anyone from the back? Convex probe CW, is it possible? Just now I said, which is the probe we use for echocardiography? Sector, right? Am I assuming that you know too much? Am I assuming that? Please tell me. Am I assuming I want to know, because I was told there is a mixed crowd here, M.Tech, B.Tech, second year. So I'm trying to, that's why I'm trying to say what is ABC of ultrasound. At the same time, I'm trying to come from the top and move from the bottom. In that limited time, I want to give you everything. Whatever you can take, it's up to you. So a convex probe cannot do continuous wave Doppler, because convex probe is generally used for abdominal ultrasound, and a sector probe is used for echocardiography that will do pulse as well as continuous wave Doppler. Same way, if you look at a linear probe, that will not do continuous wave Doppler. I think these are some of the pictures which relate to these techniques. But I would suggest all of you, understand it practically rather, what is pulse repetition frequency. If you close your eyes and tell yourself what is pulse repetition frequency, a pulse is repeated. That's pulse repetition frequency. So in case of a pulse wave Doppler, when I repeat the pulse, I said, the pulse is repeated, then transmitted, then I receive it back. So the pulse repetition frequency. So you have to relate this to real one. Otherwise, it may look little here or there. This is one important term which comes into the physics. I'm sure you would have heard about it. It comes into play when we talk of this Doppler effect. When we do the ultrasound, you would say not many times the customers would tell you, there is lying. Lying is some sort of noise, right? So you have to be well versed with these terms. We spoke about PRF, which is pulse repetition frequency. H just stands for high, so it's high pulse, high PRF. So it's basically as close to CW, So again, in case of ultrasound, it's very important when you are cutting this ultrasound beam, what kind of angle you are using. So this is again some technique when you are doing the Doppler studies to get a good color flow on the spectrum. You need to maintain at the right angle over here. And I'm not actually going to explain again this one. I spoke about this, what is continuous wave and pulse wave, but this will be very important before you, as I said, you move to the level of things like elastography, or the something interesting for you in latest arena will be contrast. I'm sure you would have heard that on a CT scan equipment we do the patient is told whether you need to have a contrast study or a normal study. So you can do actually contrast study in ultrasound as well, right? And you would have heard of stress echo. Stress echo. Anyone from this side can tell me what could be a stress echo? If I were to explain it to a layman, what is stress echo? Anyone? Someone? Come on. Easy. Stress echo. You want to give it a try? You? Anyone? I think someone should say that. You want to give it a try? Huh? Speak loudly.
It's a kind of treadmill test.
Yes.
So where we some kind of pressure, like a make a patient run and create a pressure in the heart to take out echocardiography.
Yeah.
Like some kind of manual pressure, machine pressure, like a treadmill where you
Absolutely. Great. Give a clap for it. So generally, if I have to do echocardiography for all of us, there will be, there could be different values. What is my basic HR? What is my basic ECG wave? Then we will look at pulse wave functions, continuous wave functions. Sometimes a patient comes today. In today's we have a bad lifestyle these days. So most of the people like us would go to a doctor and tell him that look at my heart, is everything okay? And generally, if you don't have a problem also, he would like to look at your heart to put you under stress, right? And how do I put you under stress is to make you run on a TMT, treadmill, right? Which is next to your ecosystem, right? And once you are put under that stress, I do echo again, right? So the equipment has all those configurations which give me the pre-test conditions and post-test conditions. And once I complete this, then this tells me how your heart is going. So these are certain things which are done on an ultrasound or a color Doppler system. Now, if you look at ultrasound equipment, as we said, it has a transducer, it has a beamformer as a body, and it has a monitor where you see things. When you look at a normal grayscale 2D black and white image, it gives me black and white. When I look at the kidney, I can see the renal artery, or I see the vortex and things like that. Now, when I want to see the blood flow, what do? I have the color flow mapping today, right? And the simple principle in color Doppler is anything which is moving towards the transducer. If I put my transducer like this, any blood which is moving towards my transducer is seen as red, and anything which is away is seen as blue. Now, as a layman, I would ask why the hell I should know this. I don't have to do anything with blue and red. But yes, if you become a doctor, it's very important to know the direction of the blood. Yeah? So we must know the direction of the blood. That's why the CFM means color flow mapping. That gives me the direction. That gives me things like that. So we actually, in fact, spoke about the system overview. We spoke about the transducers, the beamformer. I think we spoke, and no, we did not speak about the beamformer. We spent a little bit of time on these transducers. So there are different types of transducers, and it's actually very easy. It's not difficult to understand the shape of the transducers and why we call them phased array transducers. Phased array transducer, a sector-shaped transducer, is a small one. Why it's a small transducer? Use your logical thinking. Don't go by books. Don't think that somebody has named this a sector or phased array. That's no. Because if you touch your heart on the left side, this is inside the rib cage. I can't take a big probe which will go inside. I need a small probe which will move inside these ribs. That's why this sector probe is used for echocardiography, right? Now, this is the linear probe, right? And in case of a sector probe, always remember for scanning the adult patient, we all are adults. The frequency could be 2 to 5 megahertz. And when we talk of pediatric patient, the frequency goes slightly up, could be 7 megahertz. And if we talk of neonatal